Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're looking at the new monk set, which is the Patterns of Justice. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I'm going to give you my honest opinion on this set, and we're going to work on some fixes. The footage in the background is GR70. I'm struggling to get it much past that, with it still being fun and with it being fast. And this is without the benefit of the season theme, and having played both on and off season, I think the season theme actually is really strong, so this would do better on season, but even still it's pretty weak sauce if I'm honest. Now, balancing out the lack of season theme, I've just used all my Paragon, which is 1200. Obviously not a massive amount, but it's a good 400 over where you'd expect to be, looking at kind of like a beginner speed build. Now, before we jump in and dump all over this set, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and as always, guys, a thumbs up is appreciated. Now, I think we'll start by looking at the gear, and we'll go through the problems, I suppose, at the same time as we pick the items. Now, the two-piece on this Sweeping Wind gains the effect of every rune. Moderately interesting, it's fine, we do see this in the game from time to time. I wouldn't personally say there's any runes that are amazing on Sweeping Wind, but it's a two-piece, there's not much you can say. Four pieces where we start to get problems instantly. There's no damage reduction on here. I've got absolutely no idea why. GR70, GR75. If you're wanting to get up to T16, which is 75, you need damage reduction on the set. You just can't afford to have that layer of mitigation missing, because if you do, it means you've got to take mitigating items. That then takes away from power, takes away from multipliers, speed or utility. So this needs fixing, it needs damage reduction on it. Now, the other thing about the four piece is that Sweeping Wind increases your move speed by 5%, stacks up to 10 times, and this is for every enemy within inside Sweeping Wind. So I think the theory is that the Sweeping Wind is supposed to expand quite big. You then have lots of enemies in this Sweeping Wind radius, and you get this move speed, and you can then run from kind of like pack to enemy to enemy. Now, this doesn't seem to work terribly well, and we'll talk about the six piece at the same time, because attacking with Tempest Rush is supposed to increase the size of Sweeping Wind. You have to hit it 30 times or over 30 times in a short period, and it's supposed to extend the radius. Now, this just doesn't seem to work very well. I don't notice that my Sweeping Wind is particularly big at all. I don't notice that the vortex goes out. That then presumably impacts on the move speed, which is why it doesn't feel terribly fast. So that mechanic needs fixing. It needs to be a much shorter amount of enemies to hit to get it up to its maximum size. I'm thinking 5, something really low, and also it needs to have quite a considerable time. It needs 5-6 seconds to drop off, because particularly for normal torments and normal rifts, sometimes you can get a couple of seconds without any enemies. You can't afford to have this drop off. If the whole build design for this is a big sweeping vortex, it needs to be maintained across the rift. You need to iron out floor changes, you need to iron out low density. It can't really drop off at such short notice. Now, Sweeping Wind also gets a 10,000% increase. Sounds lovely. That is independent of the Tempest Rush. You don't have to take Tempest Rush for this 10,000 buff, I don't think. But really, when you look at the other multipliers that we've got, there aren't many. And that's why this is a bit of a problem, because 10,000% sounds loads, but if you've only got 2 multipliers, and they're both fairly low in the game's current state and standard, I think they need buffing. So multiplier number 1 is Vengeful Wind. We're going to get up to 300% damage on Sweeping Wind, and the stacks can now go from 3 to 13. So really, the multiplier is the key thing here, 300%. This needs buffing because we don't hit very hard at all. Now, the next multiplier is quite a big problem. Kirishira's Soul, we have to take it because it's a multiplier, it's an over double damage modifier. There's just nothing better you can take in the belt slot. Sweeping Wind gains 2 stacks every second, it doesn't damage enemies. Again, it's not particularly problematic, it just means that your Sweeping Wind won't ever drop off, which is fine. But the Sweeping Wind damage is not in gold, it is in blue at the bottom of the primary, so it can't be cubed. That's a problem because it locks out the belt slot. So basically what we're saying for this build is that you are locked out with all the pieces and also the belt slot, and I don't like that because it means that we can't take, for instance, the Crimson set, which would be very handy because this build and this set is very resource thirsty, so resource cost reduction would be very handy, and cooldown is very important because we have to stack it to make sure that we can stay alive, and it would also give us extra damage. So I would say a great change would be to put the Kirishira's Soul on the gold and have it cubable, because that would actually improve things. Now, multipliers wise, we're so weak on damage, guys. We had to put focus and restraint in the build, so when we hit with a resource generating attack, we get 50% damage. When we hit with a resource spending attack, we also get 50% damage. Now, the only other multiplier that I can think to get in this build would be convention of elements or the squirts. I've tried like absolutely anything to get squirts to work. I can do it, but you're so squishy with it, it's just not really particularly viable. And again, because we're weak, we can't really put convention in. So what we have done, we've got a stack damage reduction like crazy. So we've gone for unity in the cube, so that's 50%. We've gone for spirit guards, that's 60%. This damage reduction only lasts 3 seconds. It's an absolute pain. It slows you down. You've got to stop and proc your spirit generator. To be fair, you're using a generator anyway because of the focus and restraint, but it's annoying having to do this every 3 seconds just to stay alive. And then finally, guys, we've gone for Crystal Fist. So Dashing Strike reduces damage taken by up to 50% for 6 seconds. So again, you're pretty much going to have to take Dashing Strike for the toughness. Now, it would be kind of nice maybe to be able to use this build without Dashing Strike if you had some kind of mitigation, and that would just allow you to hold Tempest Rush down the whole way, but sadly we can't really do that. Now, we're still not tough enough, so we've got to take Epiphany and Desert Shroud. That gives us again another 50% damage reduction, but obviously it's on fairly big cooldown, so we've got to gear quite aggressively for cooldown anyway, and even then we don't have 100% uptime. So maybe we could take Zodiac and put it on the character, and we could pick Convention of Elements, and then presumably whichever room we picked on Sweeping Wind would pair up with our convention. That's just going to make it clunky and damage spiky, which again, not particularly great. Also in the build, we've gone for the Flavour of Time. This will double pylons. It's just to help us speed along. And then other than that, legendary gem wise, Teguk, as we can see here, should be giving us a damage increase because we're using Tempest Rush, and it'll give us armor as well, which is nice. And then we get Bane of the Powerful, flat damage increase once we've killed elites and champ packs, and also Bane of the Trapped. Secondary procs to primary, so it's a flat damage increase. Now, we do also get this item, the Eye of the Storm, in the latest patch. When Sweeping Wind hits one enemy, the damage is doubled. This is really handy for the Rift Guardian, but in general for speed farming, you're not going to be attacking one target very often, so I don't really think it's worthwhile taking. Again, it needs a multiplier on it, and then you can at least either wear the Rogue and put it on, or put it in the cube. But I'd look to add the multiplier to this, because it's just not really worth taking. Now, obviously, we could make this build go further, because we could take out the NEMs, we could put in the Eye of the Storm, or we could take out the NEMs and put in any kind of other armor slot that would help this build along. But again, what I'm trying to do, guys, here is create a kind of roughly 3-minute speed build, and NEMs is just going to be essential. And to put them on your character, you're going to have to give up a 60% toughness buff. So again, you could maybe put Mantle of Channeling in and then put your NEMs on, but you're losing quite a bit of toughness. And as you'll see, the build's pretty squishy. Final item for the build is the Furnace. This is 50% increased damage against elites. I've done an awful lot of testing with the Messerschmitt Reaver in here and trying to go for, what is it? The thing that makes you invulnerable. Yeah, Inner Sanctuary. Oh no, Serenity. With the extended duration for 4 seconds. And I did a lot of testing trying to get squirts to work. So Gizzard, squirts, invulnerability, Ingeome instead of Crystal Fist, and again, you can kind of get by with it, but the problem is if you do find yourself where you don't have your Serenity up, then you just get squished and your squirt instantly drops off, and then you're not dealing double damage anymore. So yeah, that's the build. This is kind of the best I can come up with. We could go higher with this, but I mean, looking at the set and looking at what it is, it seems to me that they're trying to create a lazy, easy speed farm build where you literally just hold down Tempest Rush and you can run around really quickly. Now, that's completely up my street. I did the 300% move speed Necro with the Narius, which is just running around really quickly, letting your Bone Storm kill everything. That's fun. I've come from console. I understand no numlock builds. I understand the need for move speed builds rather than teleport builds, because again, that's a lot easier for Switch and for Xbox and PlayStation players. That's all cool. but this just doesn't work. This is probably, as it stands, one of the worst sets in the game. It's hard to think of sets that are not that are worse than this. It just doesn't work. So, as I say, guys, it looks cool. I'm super grateful that they've put sets in the game. I love this game. You know I love the game. I really want the game to be in a good spot. I'd love this build to be in a good spot, and I'd love the set to be there. But at the moment, it's a bit of a flunk at the moment. I couldn't see, other than for the sheer novelty factor of it being new, I couldn't see anybody playing this for any length of time in its current state. Now, what I would do to fix it, I think it needs probably, I'd say at least 2 to 3 times the amount of damage output. So I think you either need to increase the multiplier on Kirishiro's soul, or put one on this helm, or maybe even just simply increase the Vengeful Wind, or maybe even pick and put it on the Crystal Fist, another 200% multiplier, 300% multiplier, something like that. And that would at least give you some damage reduction, kind of, because you know, if you had a multiplier on this, you'd always take it. It's got a multiplier and the damage reduction. That would mean you don't have to change the set bonus, but obviously whether that's the way they go, I don't know. The mechanic, as we talked about, that needs fixing. You know, as I say, it's a good idea. The vortex around you is cool. If there's you can take Cyclone Strike and suck enemies in. The problem is that costs resource, and Tempest Rush is very thirsty on resource. So yeah. But anyway, looking at the skills for the builds, Tempest Rush, Tailwind, we just move faster. That seemed to be the best choice. I think Fist of Thunder, I've been running. Which one? This one, Quickening, for the extra resource. Mystic Ally, we need this for spirit regen. You need to pop it constantly for spirit regen. It gives you passive regeneration. You can't really take this off. Epiphany Desert Shroud, again 50% damage reduction, as we talked about, super squishy. Inner Wind, well, Sweeping Wind in the Storm, doesn't matter which rune you pick, it just, you know, you match it up with your element on your braces. Dashing Strike, Blinding Speed, again we just need toughness, so the 40% dodge chance is very handy. And then passive wise, you're going to be using your Cheat Death because it's squishy. Harmony, again boosting our toughness up. Exalted Soul because it's got resource problems, and Beacon of Utah because you need the cooldown. So yeah, I suppose the nutshell version doesn't do enough damage, way too squishy, and you've got resource and cooldown problems. So yeah, this build needs an awful lot of work. The set needs an awful lot of work. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'm really hopeful we get a second round of PTR. I wouldn't really be very comfortable with this going live without it being tested again, because it really does feel like quite a way away from something decent. Now, obviously there are other items you could try. You can try Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose. Doesn't really kind of fit with the builds. You know, Hexing Bounce and Mr. Yan are another thing that you could use for resource, Mantle of Channeling. And being honest, guys, my main thought looking at this at the moment is that a Legacy of Dreams version of this would be way better, because if the mechanic for the Vortex doesn't work, we may as well go Legacy of Dreams. But anyway, guys, I suppose probably a bit more of a rant rather than a build video. I hope I've expressed my concerns. I don't want to come across as pissy or angry. You know, I am really happy that they've added the sets, but we do need it fixing, and it just is not very good at the moment. But what can we do? So that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
With